Hello there, and welcome to Doctor Who Radio Show. Thank you for joining me. That's the way it goes. And this is a review of the big one, the absolute big one. The Name of the Doctor, the final, thank God, episode of Season 7. 2 years, an epic journey all the way from the Asylum of the Daleks, the departure of the Ponds, the introduction of Clara 3 times, to the Name of the Doctor and his greatest secret. Epic. It certainly has been epic for the viewers, taking 2 sodden years to broadcast it all. But we're finally there. And I'm glad to say that I think personally it's one of the best episodes of Season 7. Certainly helps that this is the most potentially controversial episode ever of Doctor Who full stop. As shocking as when it looked like the Doctor had been killed just before he regenerated at the start of Season 6, and as shocking as the very first regeneration. But would Moffat have the bravery to reveal the name of the Doctor? Would he really do it? Would he reveal a golden secret of the Doctor? He's had many names, but we don't actually know what the real name of the Doctor is. But first, I'm going to get all the criticisms out of the way, and thankfully they aren't that many. But sadly, the one thing I was looking forward to in this episode was it was a nice surprise and it was exciting, but it was very disappointing. The inclusion of past Doctors. It was shoddy, it was cheaply done, and it was lazy. Some Doctors looked better than others. The worst ones were the 7th Doctor, because they used a clip from Dragonfire when he's dangling over the edge of a cliff for no apparent reason. He literally falls down just so he can dangle off the edge of the cliff. Shouldn't you be trying to get up, not down? And the other one is for 2nd Doctor, which doesn't even fit present day footage they're supposed to be running through. It's like in old 60s TV shows that use stock footage of airplanes taking off, flying through the air, or sunny countries, to create the illusion that the hero, for instance the Saint in Simon Templar, were actually in some foreign exotic country, when in reality it was just stock footage and it didn't look convincing in the 60s, never mind now. But needless to say, that's what they did. The 5th Doctor and the 4th were okay, and long-term fans could guess where the episode came from. But the 6th Doctor wasn't even footage, it was literally just a double, and they did that again later in the episode. Doubles running past in the background. Wow! Great tribute to the 6th Doctor, eh? The best one, thankfully, and justifiably, was William Hartnell. You finally get to see that moment in Doctor Who legendary lore where the 1st Doctor and Susan nick a TARDIS which needs fixing. The line they use is, which idiot would steal a faulty TARDIS? And that's what he's doing. You get to see the TARDIS, very much like the Sid Rats in the War Games, actually, being nicked by the 1st Doctor. What a wonderful moment. Absolutely wonderful. Really, really historic for Doctor Who. You finally get to see that moment. and that is actually convincing, but the others were sort of hit and miss. There's a YouTube user called Babelcolour who created a story called The 10 Doctors, taken down by the BBC for copyright infringement, but he actually managed to do a way more convincing job with less resources and money. So if the BBC have lots of money and expertise, then how come they did a worse job? And they only had to do a few seconds here and there. And the only other thing was a rushed ending. They seem to be doing that a lot, and it's really showing the weakness of having just one 50-minute episode, unlike the classic series, which had on average 4 episodes, and early before that in the 60s and 70s 6 to 8 potentially. The story itself is a exploration of beginnings, life and death, in particular the Doctor's death, which apparently has finally come on the planet Trenzalore, literally a planet that is a entire graveyard for different time travellers. The more you've travelled throughout time, the bigger the gravestone, which in this case happens to be an old, decrepit, leaking TARDIS. It's literally a gigantic TARDIS tombstone, and that is absolutely incredible thing to see, proving that even the Doctor has an end. He'll have a moment in time when he'll meet his Waterloo. The implication by the returning great intelligence is that he basically continues creating more and more death while saving more and more planets, although from the great intelligence point of view, dressed as the returning Richard E. Grant as Dr. Simeon. Well, it's not really Dr. Simeon, but you know what I mean. The Doctor will be even more legendary, and from his point of view, a murderer basically in the billions. And he does actually mention some of the names he'll have: the Storm, the Beast, the Valeyard. Yep, he finally references the Valeyard. Brilliant. Wow, that seriously shocked me, that did. As for the beginnings, it shows the beginnings of the Doctor, like I said, the beginnings of Clara, and explains the whole mystery of Clara, which, as I predicted, Clara has been scattered throughout time, but it's because of having to save the Doctor. Well, she doesn't have to save him. We get an explanation of why you shouldn't, quite literally, cross your own time stream. We get to see the death of the Doctor, not the moment he dies, but his corpse. His corpse is quite literally all the time energy and timelines that he's travelled. A swirling mass of energy. And you can actually tap into it, which Dr. Simeon does, going back in time, well, perhaps forward in time as well, basically like a virus infecting his entire time stream. His ultimate revenge, attacking, disrupting every single victory, turning them into defeats, harming the Doctor, wiping the Doctor from existence, preventing every single moment in time that he's created. For instance, every single planet he's saved, he unsaves, which means that Vastra, Jenny, all start to disappear, which is horrifying, really. So, just like in the 5 Doctors, people taking his past selves out of time affects him. The same thing, really. You interfere with the Doctor's timeline. You don't just simply change one timeline, you change an entire history of the universe. You alter it in such a way that, just like in Logopolis with the planets disappearing, you see the planets in the sky of the funeral planet, let's call it that, disappearing. Because he's altered history to such an extent that the Doctor didn't even exist to save them, or visit them, etc. Companions, friends, enemies, all being prevented. Any people who were saved by the Doctor, that didn't happen. Blimey. As for the Whisperer Men, well, again, another element of the funeral feeling. Dr. Simeon is like the head funeral director in charge of the Doctor's cortege. The Whisperer Men are like the assistant funeral, the people who carry funerals, coffins, that sort of thing. And that's what they are. They're trying to bring about the death of the Doctor, and they have, by disrupting his corpse time energy, if you like, inside his TARDIS tombstone that's grown the size of an entire skyscraper. The more you travel as a time traveller, when you die on Trenzalore, the bigger the disruption to the universe and time, the bigger your tombstone. Sort of price, really, for being able to travel through time itself. I have to admit, many moments of this episode made me sit up, especially the bit where Jenny was attacked, when all the friends of Vastra, Clara, etc., are in their trance talking to River Song, who somehow has come back from the library. I'm not sure how they did that. She's attacked by the Whisperer Men, and that was you come to like these characters. It's a little bit creepy. It's like Freddy Krueger killing somebody as they're lying in their bed, but in the dream world you're seeing them being killed by Freddy Krueger, that sort of thing. Bit creepy, very creepy. It's almost, this episode would have made a very good regeneration story, but I don't think it would have worked with just one episode on itself. Trying to save the Doctor is basically a trap in itself, because it lures all his companions, Vastra, Strax, etc., to Trenzalore, which in turn means the Doctor has to go there. Trenzalore is a planet that all time travellers should avoid. Perhaps that's why there's so many dead time travellers there. It's like a fly trap, basically. A Venus fly plant. If a fly goes into that plant, it's certain death, that sort of thing. Oh, there's so much to talk about this episode. The swirling mass of time energy, it is him. It is the Doctor, which in itself is a bit disturbing, but makes you wonder, could he trigger off a regeneration and come back to life? I don't know. Oh, blimey. Oh boy, what a brilliant episode. What makes it strange, though, is that this is Stephen Moffat. You had so many up and down episodes, and some quite literally very, very infuriating, that it makes you wonder how they could create such a stonker of an episode. And then, of course, we come to the final end of this episode, and the final end of season 7. We actually enter the Doctor's time stream itself. Clara goes in to save the Doctor, and then he goes in after her. I.e., he crosses into his own time stream, not just simply two incarnations encountering each other, and not just simply two different versions of the 11th Doctor, such as at the start of season 6, but actually stepping into the very fabric of the time energy that's become this sort of time corpse, if you like, of a once legendary Time Lord. And that's where John Hurt's character is introduced. Very brief appearance. It's also the explanation of the title, the name of the Doctor. The Doctor's name isn't necessarily revealed, but the meaning to the Doctor himself of his name is. A name defines you. It has emotion, it has history connected to it. Your entire being is tied up into that name that you have, that was given to you by your parents. So the parents are your legacy, but so is the name. And John Hurt is the Doctor. Somehow he has disgraced the name of the Doctor, but all the other Doctors up to Matt Smith's 11th lived up to, and he didn't somehow. How did he bring shame to the name of the Doctor? We will find out in the 50th anniversary. Thank you for joining me for Doctor Who Radio Show, which will continue up to the 50th anniversary story. Until then, see you next time.